Record. So we're pretty much in this. This obviously, the Sunday market blitz. Before we like to do this before the week starts, but a little bit late because of Mother's Day today, which is fine. We're just gonna go over like for the week. What's our overall structure? What is overall levels that we're looking for? Where can we see pairs potentially making moves? And then for me, I have at least one pair that I'm looking for earlier in the week to see how it plays out, see if a move is about to be set up, according to my rules. But as always, if you want to just start with DXY.
Yeah, absolutely. We always take a look at USD first, the US dollar index, which is the symbol is DXY, to get a better understanding of the overall trend for the week. So we're going to jump over to that now. Let me pull up. Where'd it go? 1 second here. There we go. All right, cool. So this is gold. Let me switch over to DXY. So we did see DXY. This is a 4-hour time frame. We
Oh
know
my
that
God, last
I know.
week it dumped at the
Yep.
end.
Yep, absolutely. Found a little bit of resistance here, which was, our first level of broken structure at the beginning of our transition over here on this, this failing, weakening bullish trend. And also it found resistance at 101, which we expected, which we've been seeing because it's been ranging multiple times throughout this time frame. So, I mean, we saw this transition happen, and then actually, we saw this find resistance at that same level. It formed something very similar, a large engulfing bearish candle right through the MAs, rejection of the MAs here, through the MAs here, which again is the first sign of a real transition. And that's exactly what we saw happen at the end of last week. This happened on Friday, and this thing just completely dumped. But it actually gapped. So you guys see where price action is right now? It actually gapped up. So it dropped quite a bit. So this says to me that this was speculation, driven by speculation. So we could start to see some consolidation here. We really want to see how it reacts at this current level. This is a big confluence area. We can already off the bat see there's a weekly zone. It's definitely a psychological level, 99.75. We saw a gap, so it just opened. So we kind of want to wait. And there's also the MAs here as well as a 200 EMA. So this is definitely a key level where we're going to want to see what happens here, how this plays out. Is this gap just a mistake? Are we going to see this push lower? Was this speculation? Did it have any weight to it, from the news last week? But also, there is some news this week. So we'll get to that in a second. But I mean, right now, we just got to wait and see what happens. If it either drops or continues to push up, then we can better gauge, where this overall trend is here on the 4-hour. So if we see a push down, we're going to resume this bearish trend. Just look for, a bounce at the 98.5 level, as we've seen so many times. Because again, the best interest for the dollar right now is for it to remain stable. And this ranging, between like key levels here, 101 and 98.5 is pretty ideal, for market structure throughout, Forex. And, right now, it's forming pretty good structure. As we're saying here, it's just found resistance. It's pushing lower. We just want to continue to see these, smaller channels form, bearish, turn bullish, transition throughout. And if any major movements happen like this, again, I always say this: if you see a move happen like this, this isn't good. No one wants to see the dollar, super overvalued. Again, it hurts other economies, other fiat currencies. It hurts them. They want to see a stable dollar. Again, it's a safe haven currency. And it's the reserve currency. So people want to see that it's stable because it means, good, relatively good, economic strength. So right now we're going to move over to AU. And AU is pretty interesting because this 4-hour trend is proving to be pretty freaking strong. Again, the overall higher time frames are very bearish. This is the daily, strong bearish daily channel. We saw a hugely sharp move, this huge drop here. Again, this was driven by, crazy news, but still pretty consistent with the overall trend, which is bearish. And now we saw this pullback, very strong pullback, very strong 4-hour trend. But I guess that that is to match this huge drop because again, this didn't really have too much weight. You see, it didn't stick, it didn't hold down here below this monthly resistance. So this retracement, is pretty expected given a move, that had happened. This, a move this with this much volume, and it really didn't, it didn't have any way to it other than news. It was purely speculative driven. So right now we pulled back to the weekly resistance level. I'm going to drop down to the 4-hour now because if we do see a reversal, if we do see that this bearish trend, the overall bearish trend is going to continue, we should start to see some, setups from this current area. because this is where the most confluence is. Again, this is the 88.6% fib level. It pulled back to key resistance level at this weekly level and a nice psychological level, 0.65. So right now we're just going to wait for confirmations on this 4-hour. If we do start to see lower time frame transitions here, like strong bear setup, engulfing, evening star, a break below this level, the 88.6, and maybe a retest on a 1-hour, that would be pretty ideal. And then we could start considering, some short positions down to the short term, support level at 0.64. And then if we do see another transition as this path kind of like lines out here, you want to get a confirmed lower high. We want to see those bearish engulfings, those evening stars, just bearish setups and variations throughout in this area would be really ideal. And then we can play into the higher time frame move, which would, present an opportunity to short down to 0.63. So you guys could see how we're waiting for these. We're building up through the time frames here. So as we're on the 4-hour, we actually want to drop to the 1-hour here. We want to look for some sort of transition to happen on the 1-hour, some sort of bearish movement saying, hey, this is a huge level. The bears are stepping in. So I want to see a break of this, pretty much this zone right here, on the 1-hour. That would be the start of this, sort of domino effect. So this would be a good sign if we saw a break. Again, you always want to see a break and retest, right? You want to see lower highs formed. You want to see confirmation happening. So something like this would be pretty ideal for a 1-hour, right?
1 hour, yeah.
Yep, a little break and retest of this. And then on the 4-hour, as that develops, you want to see more levels, more significant levels break. So, as I was saying, this is that 4-hour level you want to see break after this 1-hour transition happened, right? Same sort of setup, clean transition, break lower, confirm lower high with strong bearish setups. This would be that 4-hour level, 0.64. And then you'd play it down to this. If we got the same type of setup here, these same type of engulfings, bearish engulfings, evening stars, bearish pressure, that would play into this higher time frame. And that's why we would have a huge opportunity to short. This would be a crazy ass trade, and that's how you turn a shorter term position into a, a long-term position, sort of swing trading. And then, there's certain risk management rules that you use to implement, or that you implement here to, kind of minimize your risk and maximize your profit. So this is a really good opportunity we have here. AJ is pretty known to, form, consolidation, heavy consolidation around key levels. And then it, presents strong movements, like very, very quick movements. I mean, you guys can see here, if you look to the left, our AU here, it's just been moving pretty rapidly lately. AJ even more so, which I'm going to get to in a second. But yeah, guys, I mean, you could see a huge move happen pretty quick. And then, there's a lot of pips presented, for a great trade. So this is that one opportunity for a short. And I'm biased, on a short position because the overall time frame is very bearish. I want to catch a larger move, and the larger moves are going to happen from bearish sentiments. I mean, from higher time frame sentiments. So right now I'm bearish on it. If this does break out of this weekly zone, we need to see a huge push higher, right? Something that's going to have like a good amount of conviction to it. Something that's going to say, hey, the bulls are really strong still on this time frame. And then we want to get a confirmed higher low, again, with more bullish volume. You want to see a bullish engulfing, morning star, bullish variations, anything that's going to say, hey, the bulls are here to stay. Then you could enter and target short-term resistance levels. So this 0.675 area is, our next possible target. Still 200 pips away, but guys, it's always about confirmation, and this is definitely the level where we're waiting to see some of that at this weekly. All right, so that's AU. Looking pretty good. Now we're on AJ. Similar, very similar to AU as expected. We have two possible scenarios here. Higher time frames are very, very bearish. So that's obviously our first go-to. We're looking for shorts, especially at major levels like this weekly here, the 61.8 fib level. However, this is proving to be pretty strong. We have a good amount of bullish volume coming out of here. And this little 4-hour trend here, is pretty strong. We're getting a good amount of volume. It's forming great structure, breaking resistance, testing the support, potentially breaking resistance here, and they're going to test support again. But, we're not going to jump on anything too early. So we want to wait. We want to wait for those confirmations. So the 70 area is definitely key. This weekly resistance area is super key. And we either want to see a break above, retest confirmed higher low, or huge rejection here, which would be a nice double top pattern as well. And then we want to look for those, lower highs. And then we can start to target down towards the 67 area, 67.5 area as our first target. And that's about 220 pips away. We have seen, price actions kind of bouncing between this area. We've seen it, establish a key resistance level, key support, and then, minor levels throughout. So, I mean, the likelihood of this reversing is pretty high, but I mean, again, this is a pretty strong 4-hour bullish trend. So, any positive news for AU could, or any negative news for JPY, could definitely push this pair a little higher. So we're ready for either scenario. That's part of being a forex trader. You got to adapt. We do our analysis in such a way where, we set ourselves up for either scenario, and we're ready. We're not marrying a trade. I'm not only looking for shorts, and I'm not going to be upset if this does break above, because then I'll be looking for longs. So that's AJ. Let's keep moving. EU is looking pretty good. I actually highlighted a potential trade, forecast here.
Mhm.
If we see these confirmations, again, this is a lot of these just happen to be bearish. The ones that I'm analyzing right now, this is super bearish on a higher time frame. We got the confirmation on the daily, so I feel confident dropping to a 4-hour, right? So the confirmations that I saw here are rejection of the 1.1 resistance level, which is very key. We wanted to see this double top pattern, so that's 2 confirmations off the bat. It has formed good structure. There's a fib level in here, and right now we're looking for that push lower. We're looking for that lower time frame transition on the 4-hour, which is happening right here, right now actually. Broke key support, kind of testing as resistance. I pulled back through the MA, so this is a good sign. It helps indicate a structure level, which is also the 38.2 here. So I kind of count that as 2 indications now, because the MAs are coming into play such a way that a fib level, if pulled back sharply enough, is kind of just represented as a retrace, or a retest, which is good because it'll do a quick pullback through the MAs, through the average, and then it'll continue lower if we see those confirmations. So right now is that critical moment where we're looking for those. You can even drop to the 1-hour here, but right now I just want to be safe because the market just opened. And it gapped a little bit. I want to see that bearish engulfing. This is that moment where bearish engulfing through the MAs would present a trade opportunity, and a very probable one too. I mean, this is 2-to-1 risk reward. It's pretty textbook. 115 pips for stop loss. You can even bring it down a little bit if you wanted to up your lot size a little bit. Remember, the risk is the same, but you could up your lot size a little bit. I'm just doing the conservative 2-0, 115 pips for a stop loss to get around 230, which also finds us right at our monthly support level, and also bottom of this overall bearish channel, this daily bearish channel. So this is looking pretty good right now. So if we don't see those confirmations here, we could have an opportunity to enter at a better level at a 1.09.
If this puts a bearish engulfing through the moving averages right here, was the 4-hour. This is a definite trade idea. Definitely a nice trade idea.
Absolutely. So that's one, we could see this potentially play out right now, or, it pulls back, price action pulls back and retraces a little bit more back to the 61.8 level. And this could in fact be a lower time frame pattern. But, we could drop down and even take a look potentially. Let's see, this could be not so much, seems to be ripsawing a little bit, but nonetheless, it could pull back to the 61.8 and, do something similar where it consolidates, gives us a nice bearish engulfing through the MAs. Again, that's an acceptable trade. There's also a little more confluence in this area as it's a key resistance level, 1.09, as I said, and this 200 EMA that is there as well. So either way could play out, and either way we'll be ready. If price action does pull back up to the 61.8, this is why it's a better opportunity, because your stop loss could be again at the same level, but less pips. You can maximize profit and better risk to reward. So then we would be risking 1%, potentially get 5. And that goes from a 2-to-1 to a 5.25 to 1 roughly. You could even crank it up a little higher if you wanted to be safer as far as your stop loss, but the risk reward is still better. So you'd still be getting, potentially a whole percent better, a whole percent more in profit if you were to wait for the 61.8. So again, really great opportunity. This is labeled in green because it's pretty close to execution. And we're kind of just waiting on that now. So we'll see, keep moving along here. Again, these analyses will be posted. If you guys are on Signals or members, you have, you're made aware in our Discord channel, where we do premium signals, premium analysis. It's all posted in there as we get closer and closer to execution. So EJ is next. Let's take a look. Very similar to EU. That's why I kind of analyze these. AU and AJ are very similar. EDU and EJ are very similar. I like analyzing them in pairs. It's pretty easy if you've already analyzed one to identify structure in the other. But again, it is relative because it is a whole nother, currency when you're comparing EU with US dollar versus EJ. All right. So kind of similar, but EJ moves a little bit more, AJ moves a little bit more than US dollar. So we're seeing something very similar that we just saw in EU, right? A push lower, now pull back, potential opportunity, short opportunity if we see the proper, bearish setups at this level. So overall, time frames are very bearish, very, very bearish. And we do see this is a very important level that it broke. This, 116,250 area, this monthly support. It's held many times if you just look left once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, and then it finally broke here. We thought it was a fake out, right? But price action just needed to retrace. And this level was actually broken. It was weakened. And now we saw, confirmed lower high, strong price action, giant evening star. And then it broke this level, confirmed it. And now we're just waiting for that, another confirmed lower high below this monthly resistance, in which case we'll be able to short and it'll fill in this new range, potentially all the way down to this weekly, which is quite a ways away.
This is
100,
EJ.
yep, 111,650. So, 400 pips potentially if this, bearish leg does form. It is in the upper part of this channel when you do look at it on the higher time frame here. This is the daily. So, the potential for this to drop and continue in this large channel is pretty high. It's pretty high. You've seen something like this happen before where it, it has this established range, it breaks lower, kind of fakes out, pulls back again, and then confirms the leg lower, consolidates, and then ultimately pushes down to, the next significant level, which was this monthly. But look how well it kind of respects these levels. So like this weekly here, it tested its support, finally broke, tested its resistance, almost to the pip it looks like, and this is a weekly level. So very, very key. Again, it tested it here once, twice. Here is support after it broke, resistance again. Now is, support, then resistance once, twice, 3 times. So, the potential for this to drop is pretty high, and it's looking good, especially if we see those confirmations. So I've actually dropped down to the 4-hour here. I'll give you guys a better look. Here's another forecast, right? If we do see those confirmations in this area, let's throw a fib on this. If we do see this pull back to a key fib level, right at the 618 right here, which kind of lines up pretty well with this monthly resistance zone. So if we do see that confirmation, let's say we see consolidation, pulls down, comes back, forms a double top, and gives us some, bearish setups. That would be reason enough to enter on. It's enough confirmations, especially in this area. It's a huge confluence area. We got that golden level. So that would be enough to then short on. And then we could target down to the weekly, as I said. And then, a stop loss, reasonable stop loss would be, pretty much outside this prior lower high. 170 pips, but again, not about the pips, it's about the percent risk, which here, presents a 2.58 risk reward. So for 1% risk, we're hoping to get, 2.58% in profit. So very good trade opportunity here. And, we're just waiting for those confirmations. It is pulling back pretty strongly on this, like a 1-hour trend here. It did cross through the MAs. This is a pretty large candle, but again, market just opened. So you can see it actually gapped lower, from this doji here. It gapped on market open and then pushed up pretty swiftly. Does it have much weight? Too soon to tell. EJ does like to make these rapid pullbacks or pushes up.
Yeah.
And then
That's what I was just gonna say. It just pulled right back up to retest that level.
Yep. You guys could, all you gotta do is look left. Sometimes history, repeats itself very quickly, or over long periods of time, especially,
just look at those moving averages. Like, look how well it's respecting it when it's red over blue. When it's blue over red. Look what's going on with those. And at this point, it's just making a healthy pullback. We got the 618 there, the monthly resistance level. Wait for that setup. Don't short until you get some sort of bearish variation where you can then go to the lower time frame and look at structure and see what's going on.
Yep. Well, it'll be really great here to see if this consolidated here at the 618 and then found some, rejection off the 200 EMA as it had done many times before. If you look left again, that'd be nice to see. You get some strong movement off of that. And again, would be a really good, trade opportunity. So that's EJ. And the last one I got for you guys is gold. I always like covering gold, especially, right now it's just been consolidating, but it has been super, super bullish. So there have been great trade opportunities on this lately, which is why I've been covering it so much more. So we can see here, just to get a quick refresher, daily time frame, super, super bullish. And we're seeing that it broke a key monthly resistance level right over here. Zoom in, right around 1675, key level, right? Tested as resistance many times over here. Finally broke, now testing as support, forming some sort of consolidation pattern, you know, kind of looks like a triangle. So we could drop down timeframes here, identify some lower time frame levels, structure levels. Here's one, 1695, labeled that and showed you guys, you know, many times throughout last week. And also here at 1715. And we did see a break of 1715. So this level was definitely weakened. This is definitely, you know, confirmation. It's closure above. You know, these wicks are pretty small. There's a nice morning star, found resistance, found support pretty much exactly at the 15 area. But it is pulling back a little bit, looking like it's forming, you know, a lower time frame fib level in here. And so right now, you know, we just want to see those confirmations. It's looking pretty good right now. If you could see a nice bullish engulfing format here, this could be, you know, an early entries, you know, pretty somewhat aggressive, but we do want to see, you know, some sort of confirmations above the 1715 area, in which case, you know, we would target, you know, towards 1800 and our negative 27 fib level, which we've been talking about for, you know, quite a few weeks now. The likelihood of it hitting 1800 is very high, especially given the overall trend. The overall higher time frame trends, super bullish. Again, it is a safe haven commodity. It's very in demand right now. It's gold we're talking about. So, the likelihood of it hitting 1800 seems very possible right now. And this is that, you know, these are the confirmations in that trade plan that we're kind of expecting and waiting for. Pretty close to entry. You know, we're on the 4 hour here, but just want to see a few more confirmations, a little more conviction, a little more confidence, you know, developed in this trade. So, quick recap, guys. Pairs I covered for you are DXY, AU, AJ, EU, EJ, and gold. So I'm going to pass it off to Angela. A few more pairs for you guys.
I'm going to hop on, do some of the major pairs here. Let's see.
Oh, my shoulder's killing me today, man.
Let's get a second.
Oh.
Let's get this going. You want to just stop sharing?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Got this. Bring this up. Share. Cool. All right, you see my screen?
Yep.
All right, nice. Let's bring this over here. All right, so I'm gonna go over. You did your USD, right?
Yep.
And AU. All right, so I'm gonna go over the rest of the major pairs here. As always, got my little checklist going on, my watch list. We're gonna start with GU. So let's bump up to the daily time frame. You know, take a look at structure, what we think is going on here. Let me just take this off. So on GU, we are overall in this daily downtrend. Right now, we actually just formed pretty solid lower high now. Originally, we were in this retracement, you know, fell through, moving averages crossed right here. That's what told me that this was our first lower high that had formed. Then we actually broke back above, or broke back bullish, retested this resistance level again, double top, fell through again, moving averages crossed here. So these are my points of structure on my daily time frame that I'm considering. You know, overall bearish until we break these levels. I'm bearish on this daily time frame. You know, we got to start to bump down though. We got to start to bump down, you know, to the lower time frame, see what structure is looking like down there. On this 4 hour time frame, as I'm just kind of taking one glance at it, I see this high formed here, this higher low formed here, this high formed here, higher low formed here, and then we had this retest of this high. And then at this point, we could potentially be making, you know, our next higher low. So as we went over, daily time frame is bearish. You know, weekly time frame is bearish, monthly is bearish. 4 hour though is pretty bullish. 4 hours pretty bullish. At this point, ideally, we want to see some sort of 4 hour transition. You know, at the lowest, a 1 hour transition before we go with that overall trend. You know, before we do go bearish. At this point, though, we're coming off of this 4 hour support level right here. I drew this based on all of this resistance here, this resistance here. We found support there. And then if we bring it back a little bit more, we can obviously see support, 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 resistance, support, support, resistance, resistance, support. So at this point, it's bumped down to the 1 hour. 1 hour time frame, we are very clearly bullish. On this time frame, we broke this high right here, made this new higher high, made this higher low, made this high. Now we're continuing with that trend. We just bounced off the 618 level. So basically, I am looking to continue this back into this daily resistance level, back into these highs, earliest 0% and then negative 27%. I will not consider any short opportunities unless we do break below this level right here. So if we break lower, boom, like this, retest here, then I'll consider some shorts. But until then, I'm going to look to continue this long opportunity. And I say that meaning this. If we, obviously we just opened, pretty bullish right now. So we could continue, at the moment, we could potentially consider a little entry, go down to the 15-minute, break it down a little bit further. Or we can wait for another retest, play it safe, something like this where it pulls back through the moving average, a lot of resistance here, a lot of exhaustion, and then it, pulls through. So we could wait to play it safe here. But basically entry opportunities, what we're looking for is we're just looking for multiple confirmations. At this point, right here, we have this retested this previous high, 3 bullish candles is the bullish variation. That's 2. Moving averages are being maintained, 618. There's obviously multiple confirmations right now if you were to enter a trade. I'm just going to wait, though. It's just early in the week for me. This would be the trade idea right now if I were to enter, based on multiple confirmations, structure forming bullish on this time frame, daily time frame looking like we could retest this higher level. So that's GU. I'm going to just wait and see how this plays out. Let's go over to NU. Let's bump up to the daily time frame. So NU, let's bump all the way up to the weekly. So the weekly time frame is obviously still bearish. Moving averages are crossed, right here. We had this bullish candle close above our moving averages last week, which showed us, there's a lot of bullish momentum. Coming into the market. But we are still below this moving average here. We're coming up. We're about to retest this level, this 0.6200 level. I'm just going to mark that off right here. So this is like a weekly, support resistance level, weekly key level. And look how I just placed that down. So it's based on just finding support there and falling, lower through that level. So pretty much at the moment, what we're seeing is on this daily time frame, these moving averages are just continuing to be maintained, forming some highs, some higher lows, some highs, higher low here. And pretty much, daily time frame having this bullish trend, 4-hour time frame having this pretty bullish trend, at the moment. But on this weekly time frame, we are bearish. So considering all this momentum that we have on the weekly, daily, 4-hour, I am going to reevaluate sells at this level. Once we get up to this level right now, I am going to look for buys. I'm going to look for a break above, a retest here, or some sort of pattern, rectangle pattern, pennant, something like that, format at this level, flag, just some consolidation before I do end up entering here. So that's what I'm thinking. We very well could just reject this and head back lower. We very well could reject this and head back lower. On the 30-minute time frame, I would need this level to break before I considered to take any shorts. I would need this level to break right here, just apply my random line. I'm saying that based on this moving average, falling through, finding support. We found support here 3 times. So that would be another little idea for me to go short on this. I need that to break. Right now, though, like I said, we're just going to wait, either break above, retest long, or just consolidation long out of this zone. So, we'll see what happens on NU. Let's go over to USD CAD. Let's bump up to this daily time frame. So on the daily time frame, let's go all the way up to the weekly time frame. Last week closed very bearish. Last week closed very bearish for us. which is, no wick here. We're still above these moving averages, but we're back at this support level. We're back at this support level. We've had this supply zone drawn for quite some time. As we can see, we dumped out of there. This is a trade last week that I unfortunately missed, but it was set up literally perfectly. So on this daily time frame, we have been continuing to take sells in this red zone. We took sells here. We came back up into that level last week. Perfect sells were coming out of that area. This is the analysis that we had marked. We had gone over this in the live session multiple times. Pretty much this is what I was looking at. 4-hour time frame for me was bearish. We had broke below this level right here, bearish, retest. Wasn't entering anything yet, was just waiting, and then double tops here right in that red zone. This was all the sell where we should have been selling. That was where all the sells were at. So at this point now, we're at this low. We just hit support. I'm not going to sell anything yet. I want to wait for some sort of pullback. If we could pull back to this 38.2 right now, I'm going to look for a setup here before going lower. So USD CAD, either we're going to continue lower, we're going to consolidate down here, or we're going to pop up here, consolidate here, and continue lower. But that's where I'm just going to wait, see if I can recognize any sort of pattern or anything like that. Let's go to UJ. So UJ is interesting. Up on the weekly, we can see UJ is hitting this weekly support level right here, which is definitely major. Last week showed signs of slowing up. Previous week, a lot of exhaustion. Last week, a lot of exhaustion. And we're getting this bullish candle. Let's go up to the daily. Do you see that M pattern on the 4-hour with UCAD? Hold on one second. On the 4-hour. Yeah, no, this. Yeah, definitely a double top. I don't trade per se M patterns. I mean, I would just more say this is a double top in this area, but let's go back to UJ. Just want to see real quick. Yeah, so on this daily time frame with UJ, we have been pretty much, originally we drew our fib, down to this low. We were waiting for that lower high, formed here, pulled back, another lower high here. We've just been riding this trend, like on this daily fit. This is just a good example. You want to establish, your overall trend. We always say this. You want to establish which time frame that your overall bias really is. A lot of times that's going to be, the 4-hour and up, 4-hour daily, weekly time frame. On this one, in this case, we're on the daily. Obviously, we're getting some pullback. We're getting a lot of pullback here, a lot of bullish momentum. But let's go down to the 4-hour. The 4-hour, we can clearly see right here. We made this low, we made this lower high here, a lot of retests in this area, broke lower again, pulled back, moving average cross, a lot of resistance, retesting these lows, ended up pushing to the downside. So now we're in a similar situation, is we're pulling back right now, a lot of volume coming up, and we are waiting to see if we can get some resistance. At this point, this is really it for UJ. We either need to pull back, into our fib, into the zone, or as this starts to break, I'll bump up to the daily time frame. And on this daily time frame, I have this little red zone marked. This is a resistance zone for me based on support, resistance. I'll see how it rejects here, before trying to head lower on UJ. So UJ is still bearish, just kind of trying to look for where those bearish setup is going to play out. At the moment, things are looking pulling back pretty hard. So we're going to sit on this. We're going to wait on the 4-hour. We'll update that. And let's go over, last but not least, let's hit up USEF. Let's go to the daily. So daily time frame on USEF. This is, something that looks pretty crazy to some people, but we can see this very clearly is on this daily time frame again. Look at the trend. We went bearish, retested 100%. Retested 88.6, retested 88.6 again. We're taking sells there all day. Retested here. This is another opportunity now that's shaping up. Is we just pulled out of the supply zone again. We just retested this trend line. Let's bump down to the 4-hour now, because that daily time frame hasn't given us. This isn't exactly a signal or anything. This bearish candle and this bearish candle, this isn't any sort of bearish variation. That's what we're trying to trade by. But this does show a lot of rejection. This does show a rejection. This does merit us to bump down to this 1 hour and starts to like merit, 4 hour time frame, obviously, very bearish, very bearish, very similar to right here, fell out of that zone, very bearish, a little bit of a pullback. We're looking for something like this right now, some sort of pullback, just like this on this lower time frame, before definitely heading lower. So let's look at, obviously the week opened up, gapped up quite a bit, and then went lower. Let's go to the 1 hour. So this 1 hour time frame is pretty telling. Basically, what I'm looking for on this before I get into any sort of trade is, this 1 hour has just been very bullish. So I'm looking for structure. I'm desperately looking for structure to see, okay, what is levels that need to break for me to really be bearish on this pair. Obviously, all the way at these highs, there was some consolidation here. There was the break, right here. Now we're getting these minor pullbacks, minor pullback. This was a little bit more significant for us. Lacrosse, a little bit of a cross here, went bullish. Now we're breaking back through there. I am anticipating this thing to head lower. I'm anticipating this thing to head lower. As we look at DXY, that thing ended last week, very bearish. Then we gapped all the way up now. We could potentially fill this gap, this week. That would be a huge, huge thing for this to do. As we can see previously, we never even filled this gap when it gapped up like that. So, we'll see. We'll see what goes on with DXY. That's going to be pretty telling as to what's going on. But basically, USEF, I'm looking for a break below here, retest, head lower. Going to play it as safe as possible. Because this 1 hour time frame, 200-day moving averages here. I'm waiting to break below that and then retest this before heading lower. So pretty much USEF, I'm going to stick to this lower time frame. GU, I'm on this lower time frame looking for setups. And then these other three, I am sticking on the higher time frame. So I'm going to drop this in premium analysis. I'm going to drop this in premium analysis, those two, for everyone that's in this group, in the paid group. And we're going to, continue to look at those pairs into tonight. I do like to trade like starting tomorrow. So I'm going to look at that. We do have the signals, that are going to be ready to come out. We got a lot of stuff that we're looking at for this week, as always. And we're about to catch up on DMs and everything. So yeah, that's pretty much, it for me for the analyses. And if you have anything else that you want to share, Nick.
Yeah, so that's all the pairs we've covered for you guys. If you want to review them and see some further description about these setups, you guys can find them in the the Discord channel in our analysis. We post them every week. So just go through, check out the trading view, profiles, and definitely make yourself aware of all these analyses again, in preparation for this week. So
oh yeah, so next live session is going to be on Tuesday, as always, Tuesday morning, 9 a.m. We're going to go live again, live trading session. And we like to just show you guys what we're thinking about, for the week. This session was a little bit later in the day, but that's okay. We know a lot of people are sleeping, at this time and stuff like that. So that's why it is recorded. But as always, we do appreciate the support for you people staying on. For you members, we're going to have a little bit of a webinar tomorrow night at around like 8:30. At around 8:30, the links will be dropped in the chat, and we'll pretty much just go from there.
All right, thank you guys. Enjoy the rest of the night. See you guys on Tuesday.
Yeah, no, we're about to get to DMs too, Jason. So I'm about to hit you up. So we'll catch you guys later.